Dear veterans, thank you for your service. You have done many things that many of us could never do or handle. Now I would like to talk about what being a veteran means. Being a veteran means persevering through tough times and working hard to serve our country and keeping it going. You've made a choice to sacrifice for our freedoms, country, and much more. Many freedoms and luxuries that many of us take for granted every day would not be possible without your service. On Veterans Day, we honor all veterans and everything you fought for. We are proud of all the service members who kept thinking of the red, white, and blue and our flag during your service. You protected our nation and our pride. We will never be able to thank you enough for your service. You have given us our freedoms and rights. Because of you, we can participate in school and extracurricular activities. And most of all, we can talk about you and what you fought for. Although it seems inadequate, thank you very much for your service. Sincerely, Kelsey Holland.
Thank you, veterans. Dear veterans, hi, my name is Avery Hoyer, and I am so lucky. You may think to yourself, why am I so lucky? I am so lucky right now because if it weren't for the veterans who served for our country and made many sacrifices, there was a big chance that I wouldn't be able to write this letter or do a speech. Thanks to the veterans who served our country, we have freedom, lots of it, lots and lots of it. I want you to think to yourself right now, if it weren't for the veterans and those who sacrificed their lives for freedom of religion, speech, right to protest, and a lot more, I would just like to thank you again, veterans, for your sacrifices. Sincerely, Avery.
Dear veterans, thank you so much for your service. We are so grateful for the sacrifices you make to protect us. You put our lives before yours. We could never thank you enough for all that you do for our country. With you, we wouldn't have all the choices we have today. Our veterans make me proud to live in America. I am so thankful for them because they allow us to make the choices that we want to make. It would take a lot of courage to be a veteran because you could never see your family again if you got hurt. I am also thankful for them because you made it so all people can be together, and that would never happen if we didn't have veterans. Thank you again for your service. Sincerely, Rylan.
Good morning, Freeman family. My name is Kip Clark. I am the grandfather of Cole Clark and Addie and Ellie and Jackson, all of who have gone to school at Freeman, and proud of the opportunity to be able to be involved with Freeman and their activities, and would like to congratulate you on the good school that Freeman is. Cole asked me to talk a little bit about my service in the military, this being Veterans Day time celebration. I have always been thankful for the opportunity to serve, number one. I was in the United States Navy and I served from 1964 to 1966 in Vietnam. But when I think about the real heroes, I think about my father. My father served in World War II. He was in the Marines. He was a Marine Raider, Special Forces. And he was in Guadalcanal. And my family came across a poem, a little prayer, if you will, that my father wrote when he was in Guadalcanal. And it happened to be prior to one of the times that they were going into combat. And I could tell by the prayer that it was something that he needed to say and have understanding at home, as well as his own understanding for whatever sacrifice was necessary that he was willing to do. And so I thought what I would do for this a few minutes anyway is is to share this experience with you. If you would just kind of go back with me to 1945, 1944, that area when we were in World War II, and just if you can picture my father, a Marine Raider in Guadalcanal, getting ready to go to combat. And the night before that happened, he sat down at his bunk, and he penned this poem that I did not know even existed until after his passing. So I thought I'd share that with you because I think there's some real content here, and hope you enjoy it. He entitled this, "My Prayer for Them," not thinking of himself, but for them, for us, back home. I pray to God to keep you well and happy. I pray to God to keep your love for me, because I can't come back till this thing's over, and too, my love's across the sea. Each night I think of all my loved ones and pray to God to lift them all up high so they can see just what we're going after with Him, for He's our battle cry. I pray for all those who have lost one or two or three or four, as the case may be. Such sacrifice as that won't go unheeded, for He is always watching and will see. And when His roll is called up yonder, I pray He doesn't check my name. Instead, I pray He gives me passage that takes me back to you from where I came. But if ever should the need me to guard those gates in heaven's scenes, I pray that you will understand Him and bear in mind just what He really means. It's not a thing to be afraid. Its life beside it seems so dim. For who could ask a brighter future than to meet again someday up there with Him? Please hear me, God, and answer. And though the light be dim, they're praying too, as I am now. So help and comfort them. That was my father, John Garth Clark. He penned this in 1945. To me, that's the real heroes. That's the greatest generation that ever lived. And I was grateful to be able to serve in the Vietnam conflict. I had some experiences that made me stop and think about where I was in my relationship with my Heavenly Father. I'll share just one with you, and that happened to be a situation where I was on a ship called the USS Whitfield County. Its letters were LST, and the number was 1169. LST stands for Landing Ship Tank. And we carried troops back and forth from Japan, from Okinawa, from wherever they were being trained to Vietnam. And then when we would reach the country of Vietnam, depending on whether we were landing in battle fire or whether we were just landing without any problems whatsoever, we would open up the front of the ship, and we would carry anywhere up to 300 tons of equipment, tanks, guns, personnel, and we would then unload those at wherever the place of arrival was determined. Could have been Chulai, could have been Cam Bay, could have been Da Nang, could have been any Saigon. It could have been any number of places. But I remember one morning very well where I was one of the crew on what we called LCVPs. These were small landing crafts that were on the on the ship. We had 3 LCVPs, and then we had one other boat on board that was called a captain's gig, and these LCVPs carried troops and their backpacks and guns and so forth, and we could get up to 33 men in these boats at a time, as long as we didn't have any other equipment. And basically what would happen would be before we could ever land the craft, the Air Force would come in on the beach that we were going to be landing at, and they would rocket and bomb that beach for a good half an hour to an hour prior to us ever having to make a landing. So the possibility of us having getting shot or having some kind of an accident against enemy fire were pretty slim, because they did a marvelous job. However, the only statistics that the captain of our ship had were statistics from these same type of landings from World War II. And when you go in with a boat full of soldiers and all of their gear, and then you drop down the front of the bow of your ship, of your little boat, so that the soldiers can exit off the front, you pretty much ground everything. You go in as far as you can, and you ground everything, knowing that with all the weight, as soon as they get off, you're going to be able to get up and be able to retract back off the beach and get back to the ship in order to pick up another load. But the captain, the night before we were to go on this mission, indicated that he didn't have all the statistics other than World War II. And he said, he told all 12 of us, he said, "I am not here to scare you. I'm only here to give you what I know was the case, and that's been years and years ago. And there's been lots of improvements that have taken place. But," he said, "when you land that LCVP on the shore, and you drop down the front of that boat, and the soldiers are leaving, you need to know that in World War II, the life expectancy of those on that boat and driving the boat was less than a minute." So that gave us plenty of time, obviously, to be able to drop it, to get everybody off, and hopefully they weren't any further than up to their waist when they did get out of the boat. But that gave us plenty of time. But it did give me much reason for thought and wondering where I was in relationship to my God, and so to make a long story short, our mission was to start at 0400 the next morning, and the captains visited with us about 10 o'clock that night, the night before, and needless to say, I didn't sleep the whole night because I was concerned, and even though I knew how safe the Air Force was making it, there's still always this thing in the back of your mind that says, is this my time? And if it is, that's okay, but is this my time? And so anyway, because I'm talking to you, you know the end result. We were safe, and none of the boats that landed that day, and there were probably imagine somewhere around 30 from different ships that were in the same line as we were, unloading personnel. And so, and as far as I know, there were no casualties at all from anyone. So it was a lot different than World War II. But it did give me cause. And one of the things that I always remembered was that any time that we were carrying troops on the ship, the night before the actual mission was to take place, we always had the very, very, very best meal that you could ever put on a plate. And I'm talking about steak, I'm talking about lobster, I'm talking about the finest meal that they could prepare. And the reason for that was that we never knew whether it was going to be one of those soldiers' last meal. And so that always made me stop and think about the sacrifices that were made and have been made on our behalf. I loved my time in the military. I love my country. I would do it again in a heartbeat. If I were younger and if I were asked to, I would leave everything and go back and serve my country anytime I was asked. For I know this land is a land of the home of the free and the brave, and freedom is not free. We are where we are today because of the sacrifices of so many previously and today. Thank you.